So I am the vice president here at CanScribe. I always like to, I'm very big on motivation and making people happy and making sure that we can do everything we can to make people happy and stay motivated and everything like that. So we'll start off here with something that people don't always think about, but life isn't always easy. So let me know if something on this screen is something that you're doing, have to deal with on a daily basis, weekly basis, whatever it may be. These are things that everyone has. I always like to point things like this out because, you know, we always think things are going to be one way and they never working out. So whether it's you're working full-time, part-time, you know, you've got children going to school, them getting sick, new pet. I recently got a little golden retriever puppy, so I know how much work that is, and everything. Everyone has things going on in their lives, and we want to, you know, you have to understand those things, that things are going to happen, things are not always going to be what you want them to be, and so recognizing that life isn't always easy is kind of a first step to being able to be motivated, because life isn't always going to be great all the time, unfortunately. I wish it would be, but sadly it's not. So one thing I always like to point out to people is that CanScribe understands these things. If you're having troubles, reach out. We're obviously an online college. You're taking your program from home, so we can't be right beside you all the time, but we want to be that way with live chats, phone calls, emails, whatever it may be. So always feel free to reach out. And this is something that kind of, I don't think it's talked about that much, is we're people too. We've had these experiences. We have all of those same experiences that you're going through as well. We have mortgage payments, we have family getting sick and everything like that. So we can always relate to you. We can always kind of empathize with you and have those experiences. So don't feel like we stand out that much and we're that different. We all have things, and sometimes a quick call, we can be that shoulder to cry and whatever it may be. We want to be there to help you out. And again, we're here to support you. So motivation often comes from being understood, being able to just have someone to talk to and everything like that. So it's always so important to know that we're kind of going to be in your corner all the time. So it's kind of important to be able to, you know, have that team there fighting for you. Just going to turn on the radio here. I see I missed that. So I like to put this up there, make it a little bit more fun. Again, you're never going to just be motivated every single day. That's just a fact. We're all going to have our bad days. It happens. You know, being able to just talk to someone, whether it's, you know, an easy conversation, a hard conversation, always feel free to reach out to us. We're always going to be there. We want to help you. So again, we understand. So the way the world works now, we like quick do now tips, things that we can do really quickly to help us improve our motivation in this case. So I've kind of separated this webinar out. I've got some quick do now tips, and I've also got some more longer term changes that you can kind of try and make to try and help you stay motivated. So the first one's make a schedule. This is so helpful. It helps you understand what needs to be done, and that really seems that people know what needs to be done and what they have to do. Like on a front level, you know you need to do your course, you know you need to also work, and you know you also have to take care of the kids or whatever it is. But when you put it down in a schedule, you can really see what matters to you, because you'll often find in your schedule that there's big blank spots. And what are you doing in that time? You might be watching TV, you might be making dinner, but it's good to understand what your schedule actually is. So on a super front-end level, you understand the things you need to do, but when you actually see it on paper or an Excel sheet or whatever it may be, you can really understand where you can find more time to do those things that you really need to do. And again, it'll show you wasted time. I have wasted time there in quotations because I don't necessarily want to call it wasted, but I couldn't think of a better term for it. So when you're watching Netflix for 4 hours, let's say. I would argue that's a waste of time when you have kind of better things that need to be done. So when you really write it out on a schedule, you get to see, again, where that time is, and it doesn't have to be by the minute. It doesn't necessarily have to be by 10 minutes. I have a schedule that I'm going to show you here. It's broken down by 30 minutes. You can also break it down by an hour, and that's totally fine. So it's again, really important to have. And then it gives you really small goals. And I've put in here, making lunch at noon is a goal. When you're trying to find motivation and you're really feeling not motivated, give yourself goals that seem kind of silly and fun. Like if you know you're going to make lunch at noon like you always do, put it in your schedule and give it as a goal, because if you do it at noon and you do it on the time you did, that's something to celebrate. And it sounds so silly, but it really is. If you have a really, really tough schedule, a really, really hard time right now, giving yourself those little things to celebrate is really, really important. So I literally mean this. When you make a schedule and you put you're going to make lunch at noon, or you're going to pick the kids up on time, or whatever it is, take your dog for a walk, if you do it at the time you set it, in about the amount of time you said you wanted to do it, celebrate that. It's a good thing to have. So this is a schedule. I just really quickly put this together in Excel. So I kind of broke it down, what you could do. So on Monday there on the far left, you'll see part-time day is what I called it. So this is someone who's going to, be working part-time or something like that. Wake up, have coffee. I am an avid coffee drinker, so for me, I couldn't live without it, I'll say. So I have that on there. Wake up, have a coffee. No, you need to get the kids up and ready for school, make their lunches, and then you've kind of given yourself an hour to wake them up from 6:30, wake yourself up at 6, and then get them to leave for school by 7:30. And now in this case, I have it setting at 8:30 that I'm going to start work. And now again, you'll see a huge time block there of nothing. It's because I'm at work. You're going to have your own goals and things like that when you're at work. You don't really need that on your schedule. But here at 2:30, you'll see the first thing I've got there is picking the kids up from school. That's a goal. Like I just said, if you're going to pick them up on time and you do that, that's great. You're going to have them make a snack, maybe do some homework, hopefully, and then you can give yourself some studying time. So again, all of these things that you see on the schedule are literally small goals that you can just follow. There's some blank time there from 4 to 5, basically. That's, again, for studying. You could fill that out a little bit more. But again, if you follow this, you're going to be a little bit more successful. Now, I also included at 7 p.m. there, me time. And this is very, very important. We all need to make time for ourselves. And whether that's going for a walk or hanging out with your kids or your dog or whatever it may be, you have to have that time in a day. And if you do that, that's a goal again. Being able to watch TV is totally fine if that's really what you need. I have plenty of people who really, really need that. And that's great. You can have that, and it is important to do. And oftentimes, especially as parents and people with busy schedules, it's very easy to skip that. And so I always like to say to people, make sure you're having that time for yourself, because you're going to need it, and you're going to need that break from your busy schedule. So on the right, you've got the full-time day under Tuesday there. Same thing, wake up and have a coffee. I kept that on there because I was making it for me, and I need coffee. Pretty similar morning. You've got obviously a longer break there because we're working for a longer amount of time. And obviously your day is going to get a lot tighter here because you've got to pick the kids up from daycare, maybe in this case. You got to make dinner at 6. You're going to try and throw in study time, obviously. And then you've got bedtime, so your end of day is a little bit tighter. This day obviously doesn't have me time in it. But if you were going to extend that schedule out from Monday through Sunday, you have to put in some me time. You have to, quite honestly. On the right, if you got a no work day, maybe you aren't currently working, or it's what your Saturday might look like. Similar morning, again, coffee. I'm going to keep highlighting that. Start studying at 9. And this is where you can get a little bit more specific, and I wanted to highlight this. So at 10 a.m. I said I'm going to finish the cardiovascular transcriptions. These are things when you've got that time and you really put it into your schedule that you can give yourself those goals, and that's going to really help you feel successful. Even if you're having a bad day, if you complete these cardiovascular transcriptions at 10 a.m., that's something to celebrate. Like, you just did what you said to do, and it doesn't have to be huge and grandiose. Maybe you only have 2 transcriptions left in the cardiovascular section, and you go in and you do it. That's a good thing. You've done what you set out to do, and it can be a small goal. Again, lunchtime at noon, if you go ahead and do that on time, perfect. Me time. Something I like to say to people, and I did this throughout university, I would study an entire day. Like, I would, wake up on a Saturday morning at 9 in the morning and study till I went to bed. And often isn't the best way to do it, I've learned. So in this case, you're starting in the morning, you study for 3-4 hours, something like that, and then you have a 1-hour study session later in the day, and it kind of breaks up your studying, and it actually helps you learn a little bit better because you're not zoning out, I'll say. You're not, reading the same thing and feel like you're reading it 6 times, so you kind of throw that in, then dinner time and bedtime. So this is just an example of a schedule that you could make. I would highly recommend doing this, and again, you'll find what you're wasting time on, I'll say. You'll be able to fit in time that you need, and you'll really understand what your day needs to look like and not what you think it is. So put on work clothes. And I know a lot of people are doing this position, they want to work from home and everything like that, because they don't want to have to put on work clothes. So that's why I put it in quotations. If you can't get the mood for work, make a small change, and I literally mean a small change. So we love our pajamas, but sometimes they don't work. Something I've heard from quite a few students and graduates as well is they buy scrubs. My fiance is a nurse, and she says her scrub pants are some of the most comfy pants she owns. So you're still kind of in pajamas because they're really comfortable, but you're kind of separating yourself out a little bit. You're saying, okay, now is time to work on my program. Now is time to work. So something small like that can really help you keep that motivation, because you're like, if you're not feeling it, you make a small change, you put on scrubs, and it can kind of just keep you going, which is nice. So it's something really, really small. And again, that's why I put work in quotations, is because, you're still studying, but now you've got your work clothes on. It's going to get you in that mindset that you need to be in. It's kind of like if you have an office, you can go to that office and sit down and go, okay, this is the time I am working on my program. But you don't have to have an office. You can literally do something that's so simple, like putting on a pair of scrub pants and get working. It just creates that separation between your everyday life and studying or working. Go outside and take breaks. Now, I should preface this by saying avoid the minus 40-degree weather and snow right now. I understand that it's very cold in a lot of places, so obviously don't go walking outside in that unless you really want to. But this is really, really interesting. A study found that individuals suffering with major depressive disorder who went for a 50-minute walk in nature showed a significant increase in memory. It also helped them with their happiness and things like that. This study showed that comparing people walking in nature and walking in an urban environment, say downtown in a big city or something like that, drastically different. So walking in nature for 50 minutes really, really helps. If you have a very busy schedule, it can be very hard to do this, but it is very, very important. You should never sit down for 8 hours doing anything. Even if you're at work, you need to take breaks. If you're at home and you're studying, don't study for 8 hours straight. You need to go out there. You need to get that brain break. And when a study like this comes out and you see the effects, you can't argue with it. You should go out and take breaks. And so the reason that they studied people with MDD was because they've had struggles with memory, and they've shown links between depression and memory. And so they studied a very, very extreme case, but it shows that you can really, really help yourself by doing this small thing. So literally going outside and taking that break is really going to help you. So now this is a really interesting one I came across in my research for this. Another study showed that judges were more likely to rule in favor of a prisoner's appeal at the beginning of a day or just after a meal break. This was amazing. They studied just over 1,100 different cases, and they studied the time at which these cases were being ruled. And so prisoners who are in jail, they'll obviously appeal or ask for early release and everything like that. So they were studying how likely it was, based on certain conditions, that they would be able to be released. And they showed a ridiculously crazy correlation between these two things. So judges, just after they had a break or were just coming into work, were much more likely to go with what the prisoner wanted than they were a little bit later in the day. So this really, really highlights that you're basically going to be in a better mood. You're going to be more motivated and happier by taking breaks. And whether it is just going to have lunch at the time that you said it was, I'm tying it all together here, you should go do that. You need to get out. You need to have those breaks. And even if it's just 10 or 20 minutes to kind of step away and free your mind for a quick second, it's totally worth doing, and I highly recommend it. I've shown you 2 studies here that really show that taking breaks are a good thing. So do it, especially when you're very, very frustrated. You're having a hard time. Maybe you've listened to a transcription that was tough. You couldn't hear the doctor. He had marbles in his mouth, whatever it may be. It's totally worth stepping away for 5 minutes and just going, okay, that's okay. I can come back and do this later. That's totally fine to do. And I am showing you studies right now. I work here at CanScribe, and I'm showing you that taking breaks sometimes are very, very helpful. Now, this is something that I've started to do with myself a little bit more, is tracking my online distractions. When you're on a computer, you are likely distracted because it's so easy to access different things. So whether it's social media, news, the political environment, the economy, whatever it is that you're into right now, my big thing is sports. I'm a big Canucks fan. You're going to go on here and you're going to look things up. Like I occasionally look things up. Everyone's going to do it because it's so easy to do. So you want to find out what you're wasting time on and how much time you're actually wasting on it. If you've got an iPhone, you've probably noticed that it's got a time tracker. Basically, it tells you how much time you spent on your phone and how much time you spent on each individual app. So there's actually a system that you can use online. It's called Rescue Time. It tracks your online usage. It actually gives you some pretty cool information. So it tracks your time, your goals and alerts. So it'll let you basically set a goal for yourself and say, okay, I want to spend, an hour straight on this, or I don't want to access this. And it does block distractions, which is really nice. So if you don't want to go on Facebook between, 8 a.m. and noon, it'll block that for you. It'll show you your trends and weekly reports, which is really nice because it helps you create that schedule. So if you're online a lot and you're doing work and working on the course, it'll show you when you're more likely to get distracted. So say that's 2 p.m. on a Wednesday, and it shows you that maybe 2 p.m. on a Wednesday isn't the best time for you to be working on a program. So this is a really, really helpful tool that can show you where you're wasting time and how you can improve on and get more productive. It is free, which is nice. They do have some paid versions. I would recommend, if you're interested in this, just trying out the free version and seeing how it goes. But it'll let you it'll help you build your schedule, which is amazing and sometimes the hardest thing to do, and it will allow you to block certain things from yourself. So you should always try and find out how you can be more efficient, and this is going to be one of those things to do that. So now, big changes, big results. We're trying to stay motivated. I gave you some kind of quick changes that we can make. You can really easily create a schedule. You can track your time with Rescue Time, different things like that. But now these are more kind of long-term things, I would say, some big changes that hopefully will result in some big results. Perspective. You're not the only one struggling with this. And we started off this webinar by saying, people work full-time, part-time, they have sick family members, they have children, they've got all these things going on in their lives. You're not alone. And I don't mean that you don't have to feel as bad for yourself because things are going on. I mean that you can understand that you're not alone and other people have been through this, can sympathize and empathize with you, and it's worth sometimes talking to them and being open and honest. Again, you're not alone. That's so important. I also said that we're people here at CanScribe too, and if you call us to let us know that you're having a tough day, a tough week, or a tough month, you have to be vulnerable, which is often very, very hard, but it's sometimes totally worth it because we can be that shoulder. Your friend, your family member can be that shoulder to cry on or just to vent to, whatever it may be. So understanding that you're not the only one struggling can really help you gain that perspective. Doing all that can keep you more motivated. When you're really down in the dumps and you're not feeling good and not feeling good about yourself, sometimes just letting it out can kind of take that weight off your shoulders, and that can get you motivated. Motivation comes from taking a step back. So, whether it's, a family member dying and you're obviously very upset from that, taking a step back and going, you know what, other people have had family members die. What did they do? What was their experience like? I want to hear from that. Keep distracted, gain perspective. And I literally mean this. You have to remind yourself daily that you're not the only one. This isn't something that you can do once a week. Oh, I've had a tough week, but other people have had it too. Remind yourself every single day that you have friends and family members to talk to. You can call us and let us know how you're doing. It's huge, and this is going to be very, very helpful going forward. And now, big results, but big changes. This is something that you can't just do the next day. You can start it today, you can start it tomorrow, but you have to keep doing it. And remind yourself, whether it's a sticky note on your computer or a notification on your phone, let yourself know that you're not the only one and you can reach out for help. Our insecurities come from comparing our struggles with others' highlight reels. So when you're struggling and you see how happy your friends are, you're going to compare yourself. Why am I sad? Why are they, so happy? It's because you're just seeing a photo on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it may be. They've always struggled with things. We struggle with things. Reach out still. It doesn't matter. Gain that perspective, and you're going to help yourself be more motivated. So this is something that went viral on Facebook not too long ago, and I think it's really, really interesting. It was a poem written by a high school student, I believe. So I woke up because I ain't got an alarm clock, dug in the dirty clothes basket because ain't nobody washed my uniform, brushed my hair and my teeth in the dark because the lights ain't on, even got my baby sister ready because my mama wasn't home, got us both to school on time to eat us a good breakfast. Then I got to class, the teacher fussed because I ain't got a pencil. And this is a classic thing where you never know what someone's got going on in their life until they open up and tell you. So when you start that conversation with a friend or family member, they don't know what's going on. They don't know that you're struggling unless you tell them. If you're having a tough time in the program, you're not motivated, you're struggling, whatever it may be, unless you tell us, we can't help you as well as we need to. So it comes back to being vulnerable, but remember, we are here to help. Your family members are here to help. Everyone struggles with their own thing. So gain that perspective, reach out for help, be vulnerable. It's going to help you in the long run. So now learn your strengths and weaknesses. This is something that needs to be learned. You don't just know them. Right now, can you name all of your strengths and weaknesses? I doubt it, because I can't do it right now. So what you should do is write them down and have them available. And this is whether it's on a sticky note. I would say that it needs to be on a big piece of paper because you're going to have a lot of strengths and weaknesses. So write them all out and look at it. So some strengths you might have: you're a great note taker, quick typist, and you would do anything for your children. And that is a huge strength, I want you to know. So it doesn't just have to be, the classic things like I'm a nice person, so I like to be generous and things like that, right? Look at all your skills and things that, are non-tangibles, like you would do anything for your children. Maybe some weaknesses here: I'm not very good at time management, I'm easily distracted, not a great cook. Now, where these stand out? Number 3, why on the strength side would you do anything for your children? So you're taking this program, you've got children, it can help you keep motivated by knowing, if you're having a bad day, you're doing this course for them. That can really push you to keep going. Now on the weaknesses side, I put not a great cook on there. When we're scheduling things and creating our schedule, if you gave yourself, let's say, 30 minutes for making lunch or dinner, but you're not a great cook, you're setting yourself up for failure because you know it's going to take you longer to cook dinner. So if you're trying to cook something a little bit more complex and you've never cooked that thing before, but you're not a great chef, you might want to leave yourself some extra time. And knowing things like that will really help you. It'll help you hone in on your schedule and your productivity, and it'll also give you things that you know you need to work on. So if you're bad at time management, you know you need a schedule. It's not a question. You can't work out of your head. You should have it on a piece of paper. So I always recommend to people literally write it down, keep it right beside where you are all the time, whether it's in your phone, by your desk, anything like that, have them available. And constantly add to them. You might write down time management as one of your weaknesses and you work on it over the course of a couple months, and now it's one of your strengths because you've become really good at managing your time. So it's a good thing to see. You get to watch the progression of your success, or maybe you don't, and that shows you that you need to work on goal setting perhaps. These are really, really good things, and seeing is believing. You can't just think of these things, and that's why I asked, can you name all your strengths and weaknesses right now? Very, very few people can. I can't right now. Like, I could name some of mine, but I wouldn't know them all, and you constantly have to add to that list. Ask for help. And I've kind of talked about this a few times throughout this already, but it's really easy to ask people if they need help. It's hard to ask for help. It's really, really important that you ask for help when you need it. When you're struggling, ask. Understand that your friends, your family member, or CanScribe, we're here to help. And this kind of, again, I'm trying to tie this all together here. When you're struggling, you need to have that perspective and you need to ask for help. Now this, I would argue, is a skill, something that can be a strength or weakness. You need to know when you're not having a good time and when to reach out. Oftentimes people, whether they're insecure or they don't want to be vulnerable or whatever it is, they're not really willing to ask for help. So this is something that needs to be worked on. I would say by most people, including myself. I will sometimes sit there and try and figure something out for a little bit too long before asking. So when you're not sure, ask. You need to reach out. You need to have your team in place that are there for you. I always like to mention to people that CanScribe has a student and graduate Facebook group. So if you're on Facebook, I would recommend joining that. It's a very, very great group. The people in there are so helpful, so positive, always willing to not only help you with questions about the program, but motivate you when you're having a hard time. Asking for help when you do that, the large majority of people are going to sit there and tell you you can do it and really push you to succeed. And when you can't motivate yourself, they're going to motivate you. So when you're looking for motivation and you can't do it yourself, look to other people because they're going to be there for you. If I've said it again, if I said it once, I'll say it again. You are not alone in this. You have friends, you have family, you have us here. We are here to help you. You're not alone. I can't say that. I can't say it enough. It's so important for you to know. When we say reach out to us 10 times in a day if you need it, do it, because we don't want you to feel alone. So I've saved this one for last. Focus on your why. So people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Simon Sinek. I highly recommend watching his video on TED.com. He's got, I believe, the #1 or #2 most watched video. It is amazing, and here's why it's amazing. The best form of self-motivation can come from within. When someone else tells you you're doing a good job, it's often easy to write it off. So if you can self-motivate yourself, obviously, you're going to be a little bit more successful. So find your why is what it's called in what you're doing. So why are you taking the medical transcription program? Are you taking it just, I want to earn money? Generally, that's not the reason. Your reason is going to be a little bit deeper than that. You want to stay at home with your children, and that's your why. So when you're having a tough day, you're focusing on your why, not the what. You're focusing on, I want to be here and be able to take care of my children. That's why I need to push through this program. Yeah, I'm having a tough day, but I have something to look for. Why are you trying to work from home? And maybe it's that same reason. Or maybe it's just something like you want to be able to take care of your sick parents. So, yeah, I want to work from home. That's a very face level sort of thing. But your real why is you're trying to stay so you can live at your parents' house and take care of them as they're sick. That's your real why. So when you're having a bad day in the program, you're having a bad day in life, focus on that. You're trying to be basically a great person by taking care of your sick parents, but it can help motivate you. And it may be a sad reason, like your parents have cancer or something like that. Like, that's very sad and unfortunate, but it can give you motivation because you're sitting there and you're trying to help them, which is amazing, first of all. So know that. I'll try and give you motivation right now. Whatever your reason is, when you find your why, it's probably amazing. And I'll tell you that right now. So you need to understand why you're doing something. And it doesn't have to be something super, super deep. It can be something that's simple, and that's okay too. But you need to know what your why is, because that's going to help motivate you. Now, why are you interested in the medical industry? So ask yourself one of these 3 questions, because that's going to help guide you. Now, I want to share a story with you. I ran this by my fiance, and it's her reason as to why she became a nurse. So when she was younger, her grandpa was her best friend. They were so close with each other. And he, unfortunately, he hit his head, and he took him to the hospital. And they found out that he had a huge tumor in his brain. And they operated on it, but it came back, and he only lasted a few weeks after the first diagnosis. And this was devastating to Taylor, but from what I've heard from her parents and everything like that, Taylor's my fiance, I should say. She really stepped in, acted as a nurse, as a grade 12 high school student, stepped up for her best friend and her grandpa, and that's what motivated her to become a nurse and work in the medical industry. She not to say she loved, what was happening, but she loved being able to help and make a change in someone's life, and someone that was so close to her. She's still a nurse today. She loves what she does. She actually works on the cancer and palliative floor. So her motivation every single day to go to work is to be able to help people, help these families and things like that. So it's a close to home story for me and my family. You need to now just find your why and really look at what your reason is. This is something for me that is so important. I remember the first time I watched Simon Sinek's video on this, it struck home for me. And his video is very much on how you can sell in a way, but it's much deeper than that because it comes from motivation. How do you motivate yourself every day? Show your reason why you're doing something. So now I'd like to open up the floor to any questions anybody might have. I hope this was helpful. But are there any questions on motivation, how you can keep motivated, kind of anything like that you can think of about the video? I can kind of guide you to anything like that. Let me know. First question, what's the app called? It's called Time Rescue. Yes, if you type in, Rescue Time. If you Google Rescue Time, it's usually about the first or second link that pops up. It's a great resource. I've used it myself. You'd be surprised at how much time you've actually wasted by just looking random things up or, watching YouTube videos, whatever it may be. This is a great question. When you're seeing posts online about people not having work, different things like that, so people are working, so the example written out here in the chat is when you see people saying they're working for Acuity and a number of accounts are having shortages of work, how do you keep motivated when you're seeing something like that, when you're essentially concerned that you're not going to have a job at the end of the day? This is the simple answer to that. When you go to a good restaurant, you'll tell 1 or 2 people. When you go to a bad restaurant, you'll tell hundreds. And this is the same sort of thing. So one person might post about having, you know, they'll post everywhere they can that there's shortages. You might see a few people complaining. But the people who are not complaining are the ones who are busy working. So if you're ever questioning things like that, I can tell you right now that we have quite a few companies that are hiring our grads pretty well nonstop. Two of them, Precision Transcriptions and MediScribes. They need about 250 between the two of them. So that's good for you to know right now. But I always say question things. When you're seeing someone complaining, are you just going to assume that they're right, or are you going to, you know, kind of look into it deeper? There was a study done. I can't remember who it was by. I want to say the University of Boston or something like that. And they found that 80% of people would share an article on Facebook without actually reading the article. So the post that they made had a really kind of clickbaity sort of article title. I don't remember what it was called. And they calculated to see how many people actually clicked on the link to look on their website. And it was actually a blank article. There was nothing there. There was no backup. It was just a serious clickbait title, and people were sharing it like crazy. And so it's really important when you're seeing things like that to ask why, essentially. Okay, is this one or two people? Maybe it's 10 people complaining. But Acuity is a massive company. They have thousands of medical transcriptionists, and if you see 10 people posting that there's not enough work, there's still a couple thousand people there who are having enough work. So when you're trying to stay motivated, when you're seeing, you know, negative reviews or whatever, it's important to say, is this real? Go and look at your favorite restaurant in your town, wherever you are right now. Maybe it's not in your town, and go look at the reviews they have on Google. You're going to see some 1-star and 2-star reviews. And then you're also going to see some 5- and 4-star reviews. So the thing you have to look at, and when you go read your favorite restaurant's reviews, go look at the 1s and 2s and see what they're saying. Some of them will be, how do I put this, their fault, the customer's fault, because the customer isn't always right. So it's really important to look at things like that and do the research. So how do you stay focused when you're behind in the program and you've had multiple deaths and family illnesses? First of all, I want to say I'm very sorry that you've had to deal with all that. But following these steps is going to really help you. So you're not alone. I'll say that. I don't know how many times I've said this so far. You're not alone. Know that. Reach out to your family, friends, CanScribe, and just have conversations. Find out what makes you happy. And, you know, when you're not having a good day, all you can focus on are the things that are bad and that suck. When you're having a great day, you can't think of the things that suck because you're having a great day. So it's about that perspective to look back and say, okay, you know what? You know, things aren't, you know, they're bad, but, you know, there's some good things that have happened. Maybe you won $2 on a scratchy ticket. That's a small win, right? Look at little things like that to help you kind of get out of that. Everyone has their own timeline for when they're going to recover from certain things, and sometimes people are longer than others, but you should really look and celebrate the small things. I don't think that's done enough. And when I put in there, like, and I didn't do it as a joke, celebrating making lunch at noon, like, I'm dead serious about that. You need to celebrate the small things in your life, because it's really going to help you push through and make you happier. When you just smile to yourself, other people will smile. And even if you don't mean that smile, you can start making yourself happier. So literally focus on the small things. So you're behind in the program. Oh, I'm never going to catch up. You know, I've got these things going on. There's no way I can do this on time. Oh, this sucks, right? But if you read 5 pages when you didn't even think you could read one, even though you only read 5 pages, celebrate that. That's going to get you out of it. If you struggle with the transcription and then you do another one and you fly through it, celebrate that. Even though you did only one transcription, you need to celebrate that. If you're really, really low on yourself all the time, you're never going to celebrate those little things. You're only going to celebrate big things. So say you're behind by 1 month and you catch up by 1 day, celebrate that. I keep saying it, but it's really, really important to celebrate the small things. So going back to that job there, we see someone, you've got someone who's a girlfriend who's graduated from the program and she's not having any problems with work. So what you'll see sometimes, again, I'll kind of expand on that, I just thought of a little bit more on that, is people who aren't as good are still kept on because they need work, but they're just not given as much work. That could absolutely be another reason. Again, when someone isn't the best and they don't want to admit it, they're going to complain about a company or whatever it may be. So it's really easy to blame others and not take your own onus. So it's you know, looking at things like that online, because everyone's going to be so negative. If you go, yeah, when you look at negative comments, you're going to notice that a lot of times they're not valid. It's so common. Like when you go on Facebook, I have a hard time being on social media right now because everyone has their opinion on things and they're posting and commenting and everything like that. And, you know, oftentimes they're not educated in the fact and they're just making kind of blind comments with no facts or, you know, nothing to back them up. So it's really important to not just look at the face value of what they're saying. Like, does that actually have any validation to it? Is that real? Are there facts behind that? Where are you getting this information? And when you start asking things like that and people go, oh, well, just because I think so. Well, okay, that's probably not relevant then. And so don't just look at face value of things, look a little bit deeper. So what happens if you don't finish the program on time? So you're given access to the program for 1 year, but you can purchase extensions after if you wish, 1 month, 3 months, whatever you need. You can extend your program for up to a full extra year. So that's something that you can do right there. I always recommend to people though, even if you're, you know, a couple months behind and you're sort of getting close to the end, let's say you're at the 9-month mark, don't go and purchase an extension right away. And the reason being is when you add that extra 3 months and you're only at the 9-month mark, now you kind of push it off in your brain. You're saying things like, oh, well, I've got an extra 3 months, I've got time. Don't do that. Use your small goals. Again, I'm saying this again. Completing a course on time inside the program, that's great. If you start working on it and you can kind of slowly catch up, maybe you won't even need an extension. And so you can give yourself those goals. And whether that's to work on it in a week straight or catch up, you know, by a couple weeks in a month, whatever that may be, use those small goals. And I can't say that enough. Using things and scheduling your time and having those small goals is very, very important. Yeah, I mean, it's really tough. And when you have family members pass away, especially when they're close to you, you know, it can be very hard. Everyone's grieving process is so different. It can be really hard to be motivated, and that's where you kind of rely on other people to help you up and lift you up. You know, again, when you're celebrating small things, it can go, you know, only so far by yourself, and sometimes you need that external source to say, hey, you can do this. Like, you're not only a good person, but you're a good worker. Look at what you've done. You've got good grades. Like, what happens if, you know, you're falling behind, but you still got good grades? Like, that's something to celebrate. If you fail one exam, you failed one exam. You can work on it and get better. I always say, you know, just because you failed doesn't mean you can't succeed. Most people in the world have failed at something. You look at Steve Jobs creating Apple. You think he failed? I can guarantee that he's failed. Bill Gates, they created Windows Vista, which was, in terms of software development and UI, a huge failure, but they're still like one of the largest companies in the world. So you're never going to succeed every single day. There's no company in the world that has succeeded, and you know, from beginning to end. It just doesn't happen. Fail, first attempt in learning. That's exactly right. That's a great way to put it. It's so easy to get caught up on not doing good. So when you fail a test, let's say you fail a transcription, you're thinking, oh, well, I'm terrible. So if you fail one transcription, there are over 1,000 in the program. And I know that sounds like a lot, but think about it this way. You failed 1 out of 1,000. what's the percentage on that, right? It's 0.1%. So you have nothing to do but get better, and that's totally okay. It's so important to have those goals. I see someone here, have those goals on paper. Yes, absolutely. You can cross them out. Small goals matter. Keep those going. You're not alone. I hope this was helpful. I hope you can stay motivated. If you need motivation to summarize, look to your friends, look for your family, celebrate the small things, reach out to us. You guys can do it. I promise you that. You're always going to get better. You're going to get what you want when you work towards it. So thank you all for attending this. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was motivating, and I hope you have a great rest of your week and a great rest of your program.